Hey guys, it's Gabriel Brown here, and I want to give you a tip on how to start a business in 2020. These are specialized tips that I had to go through hard knocks to get, and I'm going to give them to you for free. Stay tuned. Now, how do you start a business in 2020? The first thing you want to do before starting a business is research the industry that you're going to start that business in and learn what the industry codes are. Industry codes, okay? Now I'm going to tell you why these are important. There's two industry codes that will affect any business when you're applying for corporate credit. That's why these codes are important. The first code is the NAIC code, and the second is the SIC code. So you have the NAIC code and the SIC code. And the reason these codes are important is because the NAIC code is what government agencies review to determine if you're in a high-risk organization or a high-risk industry. Okay, merchant accounts review these codes, banks and lenders review these codes, okay? So it's important that you know what your NAIC code is, all right, when you're researching the business that you want to start, okay? So if you don't know what this is, Google it, research what industry code will go with the business that you're looking to start. Like for example, a marketing business will have a 541613 industry code, okay? And that's important because when you research marketing, that industry code will tell you how much money is generated, how much revenue is generated in that industry. Now, if you're in an industry code that is dying, then of course lenders and bankers and government agencies are not going to want to lend money. So the NAIC code and the SIC code are key to when you're starting a business, if you will be able to get funding throughout the life of your business. The next thing you want to understand is once you get those two codes dialed in, all right, you want to research the best industry to use for your corporate name, all right? You don't want to use a high-risk corporate name because when bankers and lenders and government agencies review your corporate name, it tells them about your business. In a nutshell, it kind of tells them about your business, okay? So you want to pick a corporate name that is one of those kinds of businesses that all lenders and bankers typically would like to loan money to, like a marketing company, a consulting company, okay? Corporate lenders don't like to lend money to real estate companies, investment companies. They consider them high risk. So you want to pick an industry and a name of your business, your corporate name, that does not suggest it's in a high-risk industry. And then if you are going to do business in a high-risk industry, you then want a DBA, do business as, okay, the name of the high-risk industry that you're going to be operating in. For instance, if you're going to do, let's say, credit repair, all right, you would not want to name your corporate name for your credit repair company. You wouldn't want to have credit repair in the name, okay? You would want to do maybe a marketing company and then DBA that marketing corporate name to a credit repair company, okay? And that way, when you're researched, when the Census Bureau, the Government Census Bureau researches your company, you will not be lumped in on a high risk or with high risk organizations, okay, and then possibly removed from a list of lenders that would want to loan to you, but because you're in a high risk industry, they won't actually send you any offers, any loan offers, okay? So the first thing you want to know is the NAIC code of non-high risk businesses, all right, and you want to create a corporate name that does not imply that you're in a high-risk industry, all right? And then you want to research your SIC code, okay? And make sure that is dialed in and it's not in a high-risk industry. So once you get those two, you're good. Then create a corporate name that does not suggest you're in a high-risk industry. And then get a DBA for that corporate name to use for the high-risk industry sectors you may be operating in as far as your business goes. But that's the way you want to set it up. Okay, now I'm not an accountant or attorney or a financial planner, but these are things that are my opinion that I've learned from doing business, helping people build their business. I'm a business launch strategist. I mentor and I coach people on these actual subjects, okay? And these are things that I also learned from being in business myself. It was hard knocks. Some of the mistakes I made, I wish I hadn't, but some things I got right just by serendipity. I just got them right, okay? So you want to make sure you do the research on your NAIC code, your SIC code. You want to make sure you pick the proper business name that's not in a high-risk industry or does not suggest you're operating in a high-risk industry, and then DBA yourself, okay? Now, as far as the corporate structure or the corporate entity goes, I mean, you can talk to your accountant about that because there's S Corps, there's C Corps, there's LLCs, LLPs, whatever that is, okay? But hey, your accountant will give you the guidance you need there. And then the next thing, when you're setting up your business or starting a business in 2020, you want to make sure you set up your Dun & Bradstreet, okay? And you want to set up a Dun & Bradstreet account quickly so you'll start getting credit for having that business incorporated, all right around the time that you started. You don't want to have a Dun & Bradstreet account start 3 or 4 years after you've already created your business. You want to get your Dun & Bradstreet set up right away and get your Dun & Bradstreet number, okay? All right, because as soon as you can get your D&B number, you can start applying for credit, okay? Now, there's 2 other business credit providers. There's an Experian business number, okay, for business credit. So, and then there is a Equifax, okay, bureau for business credit. So you want to register your company with Equifax, Experian, and Dun & Bradstreet business credit bureaus. Okay, so now you have the NAIC code, the SIC code, you got your corporate name, you got your DBA. Okay, now the next thing is you want to make sure you keep all your corporate docs. All right, you're most likely going to have a corporate charter to go with your business. You're going to have an operating agreement. Now, the operating agreement is important because, one, the operating agreement says that you or whoever your officers that you pick or select, what activities they can conduct on behalf of the business. But the number one thing that I like about the operating agreement is it states who can borrow money on behalf of the business and how much money they can borrow. Most banks, lenders, and credit issuers will ask you for your operating agreement. And also they're going to ask you for your list of officers. So you want to make sure you have your list of officers, your corporate charter, your operating agreement, and then your tax ID number. The IRS is going to send you a tax ID number. It's going to be 9 digits. Some people call them an EIN or TIN, employer identification number or tax identification number, right? You're going to get that from the IRS. You want to get that right away. All right, because that starts the seasoning of your business. That is like the birth date of your business. The date you started it, okay, that is your inception date, and then the date that your tax ID number was issued, okay, that is also like a second birthday for the business. Some companies or some bankers or lenders look at your inception date with the state that you started the business in, and some look at when you actually got your tax ID number. But another important thing that many of us miss when it comes to incorporating a business is when you're applying for corporate credit, some bankers and lenders are a little smarter now because they know that you can get a seasoned corp, which is a corporation that you purchase from someone that it has 2, 3, 5, 10 years seasoning, meaning it was created, its inception date was many years ago, right? Instead of you starting a fresh corporation where your inception date is today or the date that you started it, right? So these seasoned corporations are purchased to kind of mask how old the business is. So creditors or bankers or lenders will give you money, all right, for that business because it looks like it has a lot of history. It's been in business for some time, right? But many of the bankers and lenders now are looking at the date that the bank account for the business was created. So typically when you buy a business, you don't get the bank account with it. You just get the corporate books, the corporate charter, the operating agreement, and you get the history of the business, but you don't get the bank account. So then bankers that are very wise in underwriting will see when did you open the bank account for that business, and they will start the history of the business from the date that the bank account was open. So know that. All right, quickly open your bank account for your business, all right? Because there's 3 birthdays that people are looking at the business: the incorporation date, all right, then the date that the IRS issued the tax ID number or the EIN number, the tax ID or employee identification number, and then the date that the actual bank account was open for the business, all right? So these are the little nuances that most people that start businesses aren't aware of. So you need to be aware of those in 2020. This is the way to set up the business, okay? So know the NAIC code. Know that you're not in a high-risk industry. Know the SIC code. Make sure that that's not in a high-risk industry. Create a corporate name that doesn't suggest you're in a high-risk industry, right? And then DBA if you have to, because you're doing business that's in a high-risk industry. Get a DBA for that name, so that is not the corporate name. Then get all your corporate docs, specifically your tax ID docs from the IRS, all right? And then your operating agreement. Make sure it states that you can borrow money and how much you can borrow. And then make sure that your corporate name that you create for your bank account is not using your DBA, but it used the actual corporate name of your business, all right? Don't put the DBA on the bank account, because what happens when bankers go to verify that business, they won't be able to find the corporate name on the bank account. They'll find the DBA. And the DBA is not the actual corporate name. It's a name that you get to use doing business as. In most states, you get to use that name for 5 years, that DBA. But bankers and lenders need to verify the corporate bank account, and if the DBA name is there, that is not that won't be a match for what the corporate name is versus what's on the business bank account. So make sure you got all those points down. And if you need any help, there's a link below where you can reach out, schedule an appointment with me. I'll do a free consultation with you and try to walk you through some of these things. But these are imperative, mission critical things that you must know in order to start a business in 2020.